let's jump into the Forex market because it is much bigger and more important than the other markets, except derivatives. First off, read this disclaimer carefully and do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. Let's first, get into the bigger picture of what is going on in the markets. So, if you look here at the sectors, you can see that the strongest performing is actually the energies, as far as the 52-week low goes, but as far as the highs, they are the weakest. So that's a very interesting illustration of how, percentages work, because the top performing sector, as far as the 52-week high goes, that is communication services, but that only has 121% gain from the 52-week low. And this is the very important thing about looking at, the 52-week highs vis-a-vis the 52-week lows, because it ties into this whole buy low, sell high. And you can see here that there's been massive outperformance in the energy sectors because they came from a lower level. So that's the magic of percentages. Looking at the megatrends here, just extreme performance. But there's a lot of these, themes that have seen ridiculous gains, like hydrogen here, over 1,000% electric vehicles, mobile robots, blockchain approaching 3,000% from the 52-week low. Hence, I do suspect that there will be some kind of rotation, some pullbacks, because there's so many assets that are very, very elevated. And the benefit with financial markets is that you can have positions in other kinds of securities and Forex. Forex is really cool because it is so easy to go bullish and bearish. So if you want to go bearish in Forex, you just sell one side of that pair. There's no borrowing, there's none of that annoying things that you have to go through in the stock market. Okay, so the pair we will look at in this video is we will look at the Russian ruble vis-a-vis the Norwegian kroner in this instance. Norwegian kroner is the quote, because the quote is on the right side. This is the distance from the 52-week lows, 52-week highs. So already we are expecting that there's been some rough times for the ruble. And it's been a bit of a rough time now using investing.com because now they have added this extremely annoying banner. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that jumped out of the chart and hit me, hard was the cyclicality. Cycle patterns, it's one of those things, ways of analyzing charts that I think is very underestimated, because there are cycles everywhere. Everywhere in nature you have seasons, you have, so many cycles. The way the universe breeds, expands and contracts. And that is the rationale for why we would expect to see it also in financial markets. And if you look at these cycles, you see that there are this major cycle pattern, like breathe, exhale, breathe, exhale. And you also have these smaller cycles. It is rare for the cycle patterns to be perfect. When you find, amazing cyclicality, it's spectacular. Then you can be like long, short, and make, very big gains. But these cycles here, they have been relatively reliable. Based on those cycles, there is reason to suspect a rising cycle on the horizon. Potentially, a bit significant. Because if you look at these two previous cycles, they were relatively similar-ish in size. And the move was, significant because, in the Forex market, it is very easy to get leverage. And this move here, as an example, 26%. But given the massive leverage possible in Forex, that could be a much bigger gain. You also have these smaller cycles. But basically, there is reason to suspect uptrend. You could make a case that we recently formed a major double or triple bottom. You could say that this, and this was like a triple bottom, or you could make the case that we basically have, a double bottom. But anyway, these are, key patterns that are meaningful and that is detected by algorithms and also humans. So there is something happening here. If we go way further back, you can see that the Russian ruble has been in a monstrous downtrend vis-a-vis the Norwegian kroner. So it certainly has been weak. So the primary picture is weakness for the ruble. However, looking long term, my contrarian take is that Russia is making a lot of long-term strategically beneficial decisions that we are not seeing in, especially other Western European countries. And that could, long-term be actually bullish for Russia. One of the challenges for Norway, and I live in Norway is that we do have, this a type of democratic system that is very populist. It is almost politically impossible to make any political decision in Norway which just goes against the crowd, that looks actually at the long-term horizon, because our pension system is simply not sustainable. But you will simply not see any of the major political parties in Norway go out and say that, people must work much longer, we must cut down on pensions. Then you will simply not get the votes. So that's the paradox of liberal democracies, is that they become inherently populist, which, while short term it works, the problem is that there's a lot of long-term decisions that are very necessary. And countries like Russia, China, and Singapore, and other countries that are, I don't really agree that they are authoritarian. It's more that they have, they're a bit harder. The policies are less liberal, I guess you could say. But simultaneously, looking at the long-term benefits of a country, there is something benevolent about that as well. So yeah, it's something to think about, but it's a bit of a digression. But yeah, there's something there. There's a there. Anyway, I do think that we could expect some bounce, at least some mean reversion. Whether it will turn into a much more longer-term rally for the Russian ruble, that is certainly to be determined. But as I said, there are these, deeper political reasons to think that there actually could be some benefits to those other kinds of political systems that have a much easier time to make long-term beneficial decisions, even if it is, being a bit rougher than liberal democracies. If you look here at the daily data points, you could argue that maybe potentially we are forming a little bit of a rounding-ish bottom pattern. It's a very key technical pattern. Is this a decapitulation low? Maybe a bit early to tell. But we are seeing a bit of a change. Clearly, this is where the bears are very much in control. It is just sell, 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 sell. But now you see there is a more even battle. The key resistance level is this blue 100-day moving average. Now support. So it was a key support level, then it became key resistance. But given this smoothing of price action here, it could very well be a breakout on the horizon. So yeah. Long term, I would argue that I am feeling, a bit more bullish about the Russian ruble. The Norwegian economy is obviously far wealthier than, at least per capita. But the major weakness with our political system is that we are kicking, the cans down the road, and there's a massive pile of these unresolved issues that are piling up in many, liberal democracies now. So I think that looking long term, it's time to think more as a contrarian.